Hey, all right, I just got finished reviewing the Lab Exam 1 videos and then going back and reviewing your answers. So I wanted to give you some quick feedback. I hope it'll be really helpful. And if you will learn this lesson now instead of later in the semester, I think it'll really pay off for you. So I just wanted to share this with you real quick. First off, a lot of you probably noticed that your grade went up. Some of your grades went up like significantly, like 10 points or something like that. So I wanted to explain that real quick. A couple things. When I was making the lab test, remember you have to type in the answers. So what I had to do was I had to list acceptable answers that would be graded correctly. So for example, let's say like simple squamous epithelium. I put the picture up there, you had to type in the name of it, and then I had to write down what is an okay answer. So I went through and I tried to think of everything I could think of. So I put in like simple squamous epithelium, simple squamous epithelial tissue, like all of those things. If you typed those, then Blackboard graded your answer as correct. Some of you might have worded it a little differently than what I was looking for, but it was still okay. So let's say you called it simple squamous tissue, and that's not one of the answers I put in there. Blackboard counted it wrong, even though that's okay. I just wasn't thinking of that when I put in the answers. So for a few of you, that's why your grade went up. For the huge majority of everybody, though, here's the thing. I went through and I checked for spelling because I typed in the answers, the way that they are correctly spelled. And this is the first exam, so I was really lenient on spelling. My rule was if I read your answer out loud and it was the same word, I gave you credit for it. So like, let's say you typed in mid-sagittal and you put 2 G's instead of 1 G. That's still the same word, it was just a typo or you misspelled it. So if you did something like that, I went back and I gave you credit for it. Now, if you just put like the first 3 letters are correct and then after that it looks like you stuck your hand in a Scrabble bag and just threw some letters out, that doesn't count. It has to be the right word. But if you misspelled it but it was still the same word, I gave you credit for it this time. On future exams, I'm going to have to be a little more strict on that. And that's because our nursing program at Gadsden State has actually reached out to all the instructors who teach anatomy. And they've said, you've got to work on spelling for these students coming into our programs because they might know the material, but they can't spell it correctly. I think I mentioned this earlier, but if you're writing down notes in a patient's medical records and you misspell words, that's a big deal, number one. And number two, sometimes if you mix up some letters, it means something completely different. So that's not a mistake that you can make. So just a heads up on that. If you noticed your grade went up a lot, number one, congrats on your grade going up. But number two, that might be a sign that you need to work on spelling, because this time I gave you credit if it was close, if it was the same word with just like a little typo. But next time I'm going to have to be a little bit more strict on that, okay? All right, so here's the other thing. This is the big one, is that the class average, I wanted to go through this real quick. I know like a lot of times in class instructors will say, break down the letter grades and everything. And that's kind of interesting, I guess, but it's the only thing you're really worried about is what your grade was. But I think this one's actually pretty helpful. So the average for this was a 35. Remember, it was only a 50-point test. So 35 ends up being a 70, a C. College level class, a C test average, that's pretty good. That's about average, I would say, a 70. Where it got really interesting was I broke down where those points came from, like how many A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's. So there were 9 A's. That was the most common grade. Most of you, like the most common grade was an A. 9 A's, 2 B's, 0 C's, 1 D, and 8 F's. The 2 most common letter grades were A's, and then right underneath that were F's. What that means is it seemed like either you got it and you were making an A or B, or you didn't and you were making a D or C or D or F. All right. So here's what I would take from that. Number one, if you didn't do as well as you wanted to on this lab test, know that people are doing it. It's not just like it's an impossible test and you can't get it, because big majority, not majority, but the largest group of students in the class were making A's. So you can do it. Don't get discouraged about that. What you need to do is ask yourself, how did I study for this first exam, and what do I need to change on future exams? All right. The way I'm presenting this, and I'm sending you an announcement every single week, so make sure that you're checking those, and I'm putting something in the My Tasks section. I'm recording videos for you. You've got labeled images that you're going to use to learn these things too, but I'm making a video where I'm going to walk through that with you, and I'm going to give you tips on how to learn this, and I'm going to give you clues. So watch that. That is similar to like if this was a traditional class, we would meet together and we would go through models together in class. And I wouldn't just say learn this and leave it on your own. I would walk through it with you and tell you tips and clues of how to learn that. That's what these videos are doing. So if you don't watch any of these videos and you just show up to take the test, it's not going to go well. Good news is it was only a 50-point test. That's a lot of points, but it's not, like miserable. It's not like half of your grade for the semester or anything like that. So if you really struggled on that first test, you can bring your grade up. You can improve it. You've just got to make sure you make some changes between now and next time when we have our next exam. All right. Your next lab exam, it's going to be on bones. I took all of the skeletal structures we're going to learn and I split those in half. So this first one is just going to be on the skull and then the axial skeletal system. So that's like your vertebrae and your rib cage and your pelvis. So you need to know those. Sorry, just vertebrae and rib cage. You need to know those. You need to learn those. And I would really watch those videos because there's a lot more information on that next lab exam than there was even on this last one, I think. All right. So like I said, if you did great, if you're doing good, if you did good on the lecture exam and the lab exam, keep doing what you're doing. That is awesome. A lot of you are in really, really good shape in this class. So just keep doing what you're doing. Don't let up. If you are struggling, just take a quick self-evaluation of seeing, when did I start studying? Did I actually watch the lecture videos? Did I watch the lab videos? And if you need to make changes, you can do that, and you've still got enough time to pull your grade up. Just make sure that you're honest with yourself and you make those changes really quickly. All right. So if you got any questions, if you're lost for what can I be doing different, send me a message on Blackboard and I'll help you out with that and I'll get back with you. But like I said, I just wanted to go over that real quick and let you know how the lab test looked. And maybe you'll find that helpful and it can help you out in a future test. All right.